So, Manchester and London marathons finally here. I suspect you've been waiting a long time for them. It's been quite a long block, and particularly I think for some people, if you started right out at New Year, this is one of the longest, purely because of the date being right at the end of April. So well done for everyone who's getting there. I thought I'd just share some of my top tips, some of which probably don't get discussed quite as often as others. So the first I'm actually going to talk about is the start line. And the reason I want to talk about this is a little bit around anxiety, race day anxiety, and particularly if you don't race that often. So the start line of the marathon can be quite daunting for some people. And actually, even on that start line can cause people a degree of stress, can cause them to be, their heart rate already to be relatively elevated before they've even started. So they're almost getting into that race and everything's kind of heightened straight away. So if that's you, do just think about, firstly, where you might want to be positioned within the start pen. You know, if you're a really confident runner, if you know exactly what your game plan is, don't be frightened to get towards the front and to be able to go and execute well. If you are somebody who actually, you know full well that, as you get later into the race, if your heart rate's been elevated for quite a while or you get anxious, just think about where you want to be. I'm going to caveat that with one thing, and we'll talk about this in a second, and that's what happens when weaving happens at the start of a race. So if the anxiety is also going to get worse if you have to weave at the start, again, just think carefully about where you might want to get to. But I'll discuss that again in a second. And if you do end up finding within your race, or on that start line rather, that actually you just want to be in your own world, don't be frightened on the start line to have a pair of earplugs in and to almost be just closing your eyes. Just allow yourself almost a bit of meditation in a way, but allowing yourself not to think about what's going on. So when we do set off, next thing to be really conscious of with both Manchester and London is pace. So with Manchester, the first mile from Old Trafford down into Hume is downhill. With London, that downhill starts slightly later on. It is about mile 3, but it is a fast start for lots and lots of people. As always, we're always told, don't go off too quickly at the start. So just be conscious of the fact that you will have fast starts. Try and just keep a handful of seconds per kilometre slower than your overall average marathon pace at the beginning, and particularly when you're thinking about going downhill. The risk actually of going downhill is that your heart rate will probably feel fine, and you may well sit thinking, this is okay, I can go a little bit faster, but you will pay for it in the latter part of the race. So just be really conscious of getting your heart rate to that sustained level that you want to be for the rest of the race, nice and steady. Don't go and elevate your heart rate too quickly by going out too fast. Talked a little bit about weaving earlier. So we all know full well that people will want to try and get right near the start, or they'll want to be near a pacer, whatever it might be. The challenge, particularly around pacing groups, is that you'll then have large groups of people where potentially you'll want to be getting off and starting slightly faster than they do. And the other challenge within it is you want to be able to get into your stride length and your cadence as quickly as you possibly can. It's really important to try not to go out and weave too much. Firstly, what you'll end up doing is adding distance to your race distance. So, with both Manchester and London, their overall distance is probably going to be nearer to 42.4 kilometres from what your Garmin is ending up saying. You don't want to therefore be weaving and adding even further mileage to your race. The second reason is because actually if you are weaving, it too can help with anxiety, with the stress of how you're starting that race. Your thought of, I need to get past these people because they're not going as fast as I am. But it just elevates the heart rate. So just stay calm. Wait until you've got to that point where you can get through nice and sensibly and then start to manoeuvre through well. The other reason I'd say, and particularly if you suffer with hamstring problems, is if you do start weaving and you're now going side to side, you're using your muscle groups not only to try and go forward, but also sidewards. So just think really carefully, just stay nice and calm on that start line. Running as part of a group. So lots of us find that getting with a group of people that we believe are going to be the same time of us will help us get through our race. They'll help us pace well, they'll help us get through all of the hard parts. What's really important is making sure you understand what group you're getting into. And I'll be very open, I've got into an incorrect group once before, and it meant I got to mile 17, 18, and I was being left for dust. So talk to the people who are on that start line with you. Find out what their goal is. Find out what their training's been like as well. Because it could be they turn around and say, yes, I'm going for sub 3, but actually they've only been doing 35 miles a week and there's no likely chance they're going to hit sub 3. So just get chatting to them about what they're like to be. And if you don't find the right people on the start line, I would almost then suggest don't worry about getting into a group until you're later into the race. Start thinking about it when you're nearer to mile 8, mile 9. Think about, who was I with on the start line? Who am I with now? And start to think about, are these the right people? And start then to form your group. It may well be that you're in a smaller group, that's absolutely fine. Importantly, when you're working with a group, take it in turns to be the person who's at the front and then coming around to the back. So you're taking it in turns to take the resistance at times. If you do go and grab some water and you've taken your sips and somebody else next to you perhaps didn't get some, just pass the water across just as a common courtesy to see if they do want any as well. Fueling strategies when you're on your race. So I would always take a gel around 20-25 minutes before the race starts. We talk about needing 60 to 90 grams of carbohydrate, particularly if we're one of the faster runners in a race. So part of that is actually having some gel before you start, because that's part of the nutrition you want within that first hour. And the reality is we then want to be taking a gel around every 30 minutes once we've got going. My advice is try and take your gels little and often. So if you've got a gel which is of a thicker consistency, hold it in that gel pack and take it as you go through, so that what your body isn't trying to do is to both by digesting an entire gel and to be running at pace as well. It just can't do both things. So just try to take bits of it as you go through a kilometre after having opened the gel pack. Heart rate, and in relation to heart rate, I'm going to talk about bridges, undulation, that kind of thing. So let's be quite frank, Manchester and London, they're both pretty flat races. There is very little, and even when people talk about the hill going into Altrincham, in any other circumstances, that is not a hill. So, but we do just need to be mindful that if you go up it too fast, your heart rate will elevate. So it's really important when you think about going over any bridges. So in Manchester, the tram bridges, the bridge over the railway at Altrincham, and then up into the market. And particularly in London, there is a hill as you're slightly later in the race. It's near a kind of mile 19. Make sure you take a pace that feels the same effort as you were when you were on the flat. Do not try to take the same pace as when you were going on the flat, because you'll just elevate that heart. Take the opportunity when you're going downhill to pace back up, because your heart will be able to work at an easier rate while still being able to go faster. So try to be really careful, and particularly the latter stages. So in Manchester Marathon, the tram bridge over at Stretford can be quite tricky if you're trying to push that pace too hard. The next one's quite hard, but you've just got to do it. Spectators, friends, and family. Ignore them all. You are there to race. You are there to maintain running form throughout the whole of your race. You're there to focus on your breathing. You're there to focus on your cadence, your stride length. The moment you're then starting to wave, high five somebody, looking out for your friends and family, is the moment at which you start to lose that focus within your race. You will no doubt go and enjoy a nice meal, a pint, whatever it might be with them at the end. So just contract up with them I need to be really disciplined within my race. They will understand. And the final thing I'm just going to talk about is the mindset that you might want throughout the course of the race. So there is no doubting that the marathon is a hard distance. I was in a race just a couple of weeks ago, and somebody at halfway said to the person who was running next to me, "Oh, doing brilliantly, well done." And the person turned around and went, "Yeah, that's the easy part done. I've got the hard bit to do now." And I had to block that out. You want to be using positive language. So at halfway, I would almost be saying to myself, firstly, you're doing brilliantly, regardless of whether or not you are actually hitting the pace you thought you were going to hit. And then secondly, getting into your head of, I'm now on the way home. I know you've still got 13 miles to go, so that sounds a bit odd, but you want to be getting into that mindset of, I've done half, I'm now in the latter stages, even though you've got a way to go. And just use positive words, or think about some of the long training runs you've done that have gone really, really well. Think about the ones where you hit marathon pace nice and easy when you were in that second half of your training run, because it helps you think, actually, I know what I'm doing. I know what this felt like in a training run in March. I'm going to go and make sure I replicate that because I know what it feels like. And the second part is to chunk the race down. So rather than thinking of it as 26 miles or 42 kilometers, think about it as much smaller chunks. So that might be, particularly my way of doing it, is thinking about 8 park runs and then a little bit more tacked on to the end. And when you're starting to get to more like 10 kilometers left to go, start thinking about, actually, I've just got 5 times 2 kilometer loops to go. This isn't much further. When you've got to just under 5 kilometers, start to think about it in laps of the track. So when you've only got like 4,800 meters to go, just under 3 miles, start to knock down each lap. So I've got 12 laps to go, 11 laps, and so on and so on. It just helps it feel more manageable within your mind doing it that way. I do hope some of that's been quite useful. Some of it I suspect knew all that, didn't need to be told that a second time. But I hope that did give some hints that might be beneficial to you. Very best of luck if you're out there racing. Both brilliant races. Weather looking great, no wind, which is always a bonus. I'll be out on the course of Manchester looking out for you. And if you've got any questions, just drop them in the comments and I'll answer them for you. Best of luck, everyone.